Folks are pretending to be mad at Bethesda Game Studios for making a Bethesda Game Studio game, and it's hilarious. So there's this new game called Starfield. It releases in early access on Thursday. It's the first new IP for Bethesda in 25 years. They're the folks who sold you Skyrim like 19 times, and also the Fallout series. But I definitely don't have an unhealthy attachment to, thanks to my playing it a lot overseas. They've been describing this as Skyrim in space, and if it turns out to just be Skyrim in space, amazing! I'll play it for 10 years. But some folks are just like beyond angry because there's been some leaks that are, I think, more or less confirmed by the studio about some boundaries in the game. And people were expecting just like the most impossible thing ever. A lot of studios have attempted to give us the seamless space experience game, and they never quite work because trying to simulate an entire unbroken seamless universe is very, very hard. No Man's Sky attempted it. They have like a quintillion planets. You can go from the surface of a planet up into space, and they added a bunch of content to the game over 5 years, so it's not the disaster that it was when it launched. But at its core, it's kind of boring. There's not a ton of story or characters or NPCs because there's not really room for them because there's a quintillion planets and you don't know where the people are going to go. As a purely space sim, it is very impressive. But if you're looking for like an RPG Bethesda experience, you're not going to find it there, obviously. And then you've got Star Citizen, which at this point is at like $800 million of backing. And they've been designing this thing for over a decade, and it barely has a workable alpha in production. There's this thing called scope creep, where if you just have a million ideas and you try to implement them all, eventually you never actually have a viable product. At some point down the production line, you have to start saying no to stuff, because in order to design anything, you need time and resources and talent. And some of those things are finite. Now, Bethesda has been saying that you can land anywhere you want on a planet and it generates stuff around you. And people got it in their head that you could just go anywhere you wanted, whenever you wanted, and there would be absolutely no boundaries. They were mad when they found out that going from the surface of the planet to space was a cutscene instead of seamless, because trying to design that would take away from all the other systems. Now they're mad because when you land on the planet, we're being told you probably can't walk around the entire circumference of it. Apparently, when you land, the game generates a map around you of roughly 45 minutes of walking distance from your ship, which is like 4 times the size of the Commonwealth in Fallout 4. There are like locations that you can land on a planet. We've seen that in the Direct, and you can also land wherever you want. It's just that when you land, you can't seamlessly go to the other end of the planet. And why would you want to? That would take literal months, like months of time. And they're also mad that the space map is designed around you jumping around. So if you're like in the solar system next to Earth and you look over at Mars and go, I want to go to Mars, instead of taking the 3 months it would take to fly there, assuming we were in a good orbit, then instead you just jump there instantaneously. You know, because it's a video game and you don't have 3 months to fly to Mars. You have, 2 hours after work. The reason that they're not doing those things in this game is because it's a Bethesda game, and they're leaving room for NPCs and the persistent environment where all the items are kept accountable at all times so that you can collect all the vegetables in the game and put them in one house. All the story and the other stuff that like makes up the Bethesda game, all the interesting dungeons and all the interesting places to go and loot, that stuff's taking precedence over a seamless universe. And thank God, how boring would it be if they just made an empty space sim? These games are being designed for consoles. They have limited memory. Like, yeah, you could make a game like No Man's Sky where you have a quintillion planets, but they're going to be largely boring and lifeless because there's so many of them. Or you can generate handcrafted content, which is going to take up storage space and computer power. It's so bizarre that people are mad that this game isn't something it was never saying it was going to be. That it's being designed around the same core ideals that they have designed every other game around at that studio. These developers are not taking these features out of the game because they personally hate you. They're doing it because there are like physical restrictions to what you can design in 7 years. Then I took a second and I thought about this situation a little longer and what I know about gamers, and no, I'm not surprised that they're this angry at the concept of boundaries.